Tonight on EIV News at 9, a 6-alarm fire in Dorchester.
And police hunt for a man with a hypodermic needle.
Plus, a former Fox reporter speaks out against Roger Ailes. All that and more coming up on EIV News at 9.
Hello and welcome to EIV News at 9. I'm Lindsay Perdue.
And I'm Joey Sack. We begin with tonight's top stories. A 6-alarm fire ripped through several triple-decker homes in Dorchester early Sunday morning, displacing about 17 people and damaging at least 5 homes. Officials say the fire started at a vacant building on Marie Street and quickly spread to neighboring units, causing about $2.5 million in damage. 2 firefighters suffered injuries to the shoulder and leg as they battled the flames, and there were several pets who ran away from their home when the fire broke out. A hotspot did ignite around 8:30, forcing fire crews to spring back into action. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
Abington police are still searching for a man who allegedly robbed a gas station armed with a hypodermic syringe filled with a red liquid. The robbery took place at the Abington Stop and Gas on North Avenue Saturday morning. Police say the suspect was last seen wearing a gray Reebok hoodie, gray sweatpants, brown gloves, and sunglasses. This incident is on high alert because of the unknown liquid that was inside the needle. Police encourage anyone who has information to contact the Abington Police.
Former WHDH and Fox reporter Allison Camerota says she was sexually harassed by former Fox News CEO Roger Ailes. She said this publicly for the first time in an interview with CNN's Brian Stetler Sunday. She described Ailes as charismatic but also often a bully and, quote, grossly inappropriate, close quote. Ailes resigned from Fox News last July amid multiple allegations that he sexually harassed his female colleagues. Camerota recalled an incident where she had asked Ailes for a job with more responsibility and was met with an invitation for the two of them to engage in sexual activity. Ailes' attorney responded with a statement saying Camerota's claims were false and unfounded.
And now Kayla Marks with a look at the immigration protest.
Student-organized group Coalition hosted an immigration rights rally in the Boston Commons on Thursday night. Coalition to Organize and Mobilize Boston Against Trump or Combat speaks out about not being afraid to be an immigrant, documented or not.
Liberation, not deportation. Liberation, not deportation.
Lead organizer for the student immigration movement, Cairo, has the audience participate by a call and response chant.
Obama created the biggest deportation machine and that Trump is now inheriting, right? And the day after the elections, I was terrified, and I'm still a little bit terrified, even though I've been out of the shadows for 6 years. My mother goes to work every day without a license. And we have seen that people who do speak out are being detained. But we're going to win, right? We're going to fight, and we're going to win, and I'm ready to fight alongside all of you.
Cairo talks about his mom, who is an immigrant, and how he wants other immigrants to feel comfortable no matter their status.
We endorse this demonstration for the same reasons that we've been endorsing a lot of demonstrations and supporting a lot of demonstrations in Boston. It's because we recognize that the Trump administration is attacking all kinds of people, oppressed people, whether trans, immigrants, more than I can even mention. But the attacks on the immigrant community, particularly undocumented immigrants, have been some of the most swift and devastating. Recognize that this is a continuity of policies that have been in place from the Obama administration and before.
So I think the Sanctuary Campus movement is something we've been seeing across the nation, and especially Boston, where there's so many universities and colleges that are trying to do this effort, and many administrations in these colleges fear, getting their federal funding taken away from them, so on and so forth. So we're trying to have this event to kind of create an opportunity for students and faculty and workers to come together and see the kind of work that different schools are doing so that they can feel support and maybe create other events in the future.
from Campus Rally Immigration Rights, I'm Kayla Martin, signing out for EIV News.
Thank you, Kayla. Police responded to Providence and Harrison Streets in Worcester after a man alerted paramedics of a severe stab wound. At the time, the man was losing consciousness and was unable to provide details about his injury. He is now in critical condition, and police say he was stabbed by a woman that he knew. A home had been taped off, and police cruisers waited outside, keeping a watch on as detectives searched for evidence. Police found the suspect, a 20-year-old woman believed to have dated the victim, by tracing blood to a Providence apartment. The victim has not yet been identified.
We now go to our political correspondent, Paul Ross, for a look at politics.
On Tuesday, both the Washington Post and the New York Times reported that former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn may have broken the law by failing to disclose all his foreign income with his dealings with Russia. House Oversight Committee Chair Jason Chaffetz, a Republican from Utah, shared these details with the press sometime around noon today that Flynn received money from the Russian government, which he failed to share while he was serving in President Trump's cabinet. In February, Flynn resigned from Trump's cabinet after misleading Vice President Mike Pence and others in the Trump administration regarding phone calls with Russia, informing the government in Moscow about future sanctions the United States plans to impose on the government. Time will tell if this has any further effect on the Trump administration. This morning on Twitter, President Donald Trump called out the Canadian government for making dairy farming difficult in Wisconsin and other states. This is not the first time that Trump has shared his disdain for our northern neighbors regarding this topic. Last week, Trump criticized the North American Free Trade Agreement and what it has done for farming in the United States, calling it, quote, a complete and utter disaster, end quote, and that it is hurting Wisconsin farmers, which led to the signing of the Buy American, Hire American executive order, which limits foreign worker visas. Interestingly enough, on Sunday, farmers in Wisconsin said that this claim from President Trump is not entirely accurate, as the problem is overproduction rather than underproduction, and the United States needs to change its farming regulations rather than Canada. It remains to be seen if the backlash from President Trump results in any significant change. And now, an early update on the 2018 midterm elections. As the Democratic Party is looking to overcome the shocking and embarrassing 2016 election defeat, the number of candidates signing up for the 2018 midterms has increased by 58% from 2014. The Republicans took over the Senate after the 2014 midterms, which the Democrats failed to take back in the most recent elections. This time, over 400 candidates have declared candidacies, although the election is still 80 weeks away from today. The Democratic Party believes that up to 1,000 candidates will compete in state primaries to try and take over both chambers of Congress. But to use an election term, the 2018 midterms are too early to call. Joey, back to you.
Thanks, Paul. 4 people were injured in a car crash Saturday morning in Ashby. Emergency vehicles responded to the intersection of Greenville Road and Turnpike Road just after 9 a.m. after receiving reports of a crash involving 2 vehicles. Investigators report a Toyota Camry traveling west failed to stop at a stop sign and was struck by a GMC Arcadia traveling south. The Toyota, carrying 2 passengers, was flipped on its roof. The passenger was taken to UMass Memorial Medical Center with serious injuries, while the driver was taken to a local hospital in less serious condition. The GMC carried 2 people, including a 5-year-old child. Both were taken to local hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries.
A man who allegedly assaulted a school chaperone at the Lechmere station on Thursday has turned himself in. The victim was a woman watching 1st and 2nd graders on the Green Line when she politely asked him to keep his dog away from the children. The man responded using obscene language and allegedly threatening to kill the woman. Police also reported that he bragged about, quote, killing people for less, end quote. When the train arrived at Lechmere, the man physically assaulted the woman and left the area. According to police, the man, who has not been identified yet, turned himself in on Saturday. It is unclear if he will face any charges.
The body of a man was found early Saturday morning near the Charles River Esplanade, according to the Suffolk County Attorney General's office. A pedestrian found the body just before 6 a.m. The man is said to be in his mid-20s, and his name has not yet been released. The initial investigation showed no signs of violent trauma or robbery. However, state police are still investigating, and the chief medical examiner will determine the cause of death. No further information has been released.
2 teenage girls who went missing in Methuen this Saturday have been located. Jessica Jimenez, 13, and Jennifer Cepeda, 15, had gone missing from their group home around 12:30 a.m., and Methuen police took to social media to ask for the public's help in locating the girls. Cepeda returned to the home late Wednesday, claiming she had been in Lawrence. She declined to offer police any more information. Jimenez was found at her aunt's house in Methuen. According to police, investigation into the cause of their disappearance is ongoing.
Superior Court Judge Thomas McGuire ordered the preservation of evidence in Aaron Hernandez's apparent suicide, as Hernandez's family and fiancé seek to investigate his death. This includes the former New England Patriot's personal property and writing, as well as reports of his whereabouts and footage from within his cell prior to his body being discovered. Other evidence preserved will include recordings of his phone calls for 30 days prior to his death. The family's lawyer requested recordings from other inmates' phone calls as well. An independent autopsy of Hernandez's body has been performed, but findings will not be reported until a toxicology report and a study of Hernandez's brain has been completed.
Harvard University researchers claim to have found a second copy of the Declaration of Independence. Emily Sneff and Danielle Allen made the discovery in an archival office in the southern English city of Chichester. The pair believe it may have belonged to a former Duke of Richmond who was known for his radical support of Americans during the Revolutionary War. Allegedly, the signers of the second copy are not organized by state, as they are in the copy currently maintained by the National Archives in Washington.
When we get back, a conversation about a recent roadblock for President Donald Trump's Sanctuary City executive order.
Lauren, what are you doing?
I'm getting ready to host Good Morning Emerson, of course.
Good Morning Emerson? What's that?
It's the best morning show ever that's on Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m.
Wow, how can I work on this?
Yeah, let's get going. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather.
Welcome back to EIV News at 9. In the latest update in the Trump saga, a judge has just blocked the Trump administration from taking away funds from sanctuary cities. Paul, what kind of effect does this have on his administration?
Well, this is a major blow to Donald Trump and his administration. For one, because this is something that he's wanted to get passed and wanted to implement throughout the country. And there's going to be a standoff, and this federal judge in San Francisco basically wants the Trump administration to stop trying to block other cities from basically imposing their own immigration laws. And this is a pretty simple explanation to Trump. It's stop trying to do what you're doing, and because it's not working. And these other cities like Boston, for example, is a city that wants to take in more immigrants, and throughout the country we're seeing that more immigrants want to come to the United States and actually want to go and make a purpose while they're here.
Mm-hmm. From an international standpoint, Moses, how do you feel about this?
I think that it's incredibly complicated to even approach this from Trump's standpoint. I think internationally it won't help relations, but domestically it also has complications as well because there's no legal definition for a sanctuary city. And there's no real bound set on how much funding can be taken away from these cities. So I think on all angles it's really difficult.
So you talked briefly, Paul, about how Boston is a sanctuary city. We also have Somerville in Massachusetts, which is a sanctuary city. So what does this blocking of the of this part of the immigration order sort of do for Massachusetts and Boston specifically?
It's sort of a vindication, for a lack of a better term. It gives the city of Boston sort of the standpoint that they can continue doing what they're doing and that what they're doing is actually fine federally, and it won't really get into too much trouble with the administration because the federal judge has decided, you know what, it's okay that sanctuary cities exist, and we don't like that the Trump administration is trying to prevent that from happening. So Boston is basically setting an example, and Somerville as well, that sanctuary cities are fine and that they're going to stay.
I actually recall that there were some open immigration forums that were held by the city of Boston, and I believe at one of them, Mayor Marty Walsh said that as long as he's the mayor, the Boston Police Department will not be, deputized to, take part in any sort of immigration issues in the city of Boston. And I think this sort of is really this blocking of this part of the order is very much a vindication of, his philosophy and his policy on immigration, especially in Boston.
Right, and we'll see that the mayor election coming up at the end of November, or the beginning of November, it'll show that both Tito Jackson and Marty Walsh want to keep sanctuary cities and want to keep Boston as a sanctuary city. Boston has been a progressive city for years and wants to show that sanctuary cities are something that we need to go and continue having, and Boston can operate as an example for the rest of the country.
Thank you so much, Paul and Moses. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
And now here's Sierra with some updates on the weather. What can you tell us, Sierra?
Well, unfortunately, the rain from last week is here to stay. Today was partly cloudy with a high of 48 and a low of 46, and tomorrow we'll have a high of 55 and a low of 51 as the rain returns. For Thursday, keep your umbrellas out as rain continues all day with a high of 61 and a low of 53. And then, while it may warm up for Friday, humidity will also increase as the rain continues with a high of 72 and a low of 57. And finally, on Saturday, we'll have a high of 77 and a low of 54 with more rain to round out the week. That's all I have for weather. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Sierra. Now for a look at what's happening around the world this week. We're joined in studio by our international correspondent, Moses Small. What can you tell us, Moses?
Thanks, Lindsay. Ivanka Trump faced a difficult reception at the G20 Women's Summit in Berlin. In a panel discussion, she drew criticism when she said her father is, quote, a tremendous champion of supporting families and enabling them to thrive. She was asked more about this and denies claims that Donald Trump disparages women. This comes after a number of controversial remarks, including those in a 2005 tape that was released during the campaign. Despite this, some say that German Chancellor Angela Merkel invited Ivanka Trump to the summit to gain more communication with the White House. And earlier today, a U.S. submarine arrived in South Korea. The USS Michigan docked in the port of Busan in preparation for nuclear tests from the north. The submarine is set to join a group of U.S. ships headed towards the Korean Peninsula. The South Korean government is on high alert for a missile test today because today marks the 85th anniversary of the founding of the North Korean military. No tests have been reported yet, but tensions have been rising in the north since the missile test last Sunday. Meanwhile, the entire U.S. Senate is being called for a briefing about North Korea this Wednesday. And finally, in France, security experts accuse Russia of targeting a candidate in the French presidential election. Members of Emmanuel Macron's campaign report that Russian hackers tried to steal information like emails and login codes. The digital prints left behind are the same ones that were found after the hacks in the past U.S. election. However, Russia at this point denies responsibility. Emmanuel Macron is a left-leaning candidate who's running against far-right candidate Marine Le Pen. The French election takes place May 7th. That's all the international news I have tonight. Joey and Lindsay, back to you at the host desk.
Thanks for the update, Moses. The first new Roman Catholic church to open in Boston in 60 years held its first set of masses this weekend. The Shrine of Our Lady of Good Voyage is located in Boston's Seaport District among the sleek new office buildings, luxury hotels, and high-end condominiums. The church replaced a chapel of the same name that was built in 1952. Reverend James Flavin told the Boston Globe that the shrine's mission is to serve those who live and work in the area, very much like the original chapel that served the sailors and workers who worked in that area. This church was built by a developer who wanted the old chapel site for an office building. It cost $10 million to construct.
A Newton High School student won the American Legion Constitutional Speech Contest this Sunday, receiving an $18,000 scholarship. The contest is meant to encourage young Americans to practice communication skills and study the U.S. Constitution. It was held in the American Legion headquarters in Indianapolis. Winner Andrew Steinberg said that he was encouraged to compete by a love for speech, politics, and our country. He's a junior at Roxbury Latin School and was one of 3 contest finalists. Robin E. Anuzelis of Woodbine, Massachusetts came in second, and Chad C. Durante of Virginia was third. And now we check in with Jess for a look at business and technology.
Thanks, Lindsay. According to a Wall Street Journal, it is a great time to be a cigarette company again. Although far fewer Americans are smoking, the U.S. tobacco revenue is still soaring thanks to steady price hikes. Americans spent more at retail stores on cigarettes last year than they did on soda and beer combined, according to an independent market research firm called Euromonitor International. Consolidation and cost cutting have also boosted profit, with the big tobacco shares also on a steady increase. The operating profits of U.S. tobacco manufacturers have grown 77% since the last decade to $18.4 billion reported in 2016. Industry executives and analysts concluded that the U.S. generates more tobacco profits than any other market in the world outside of China, where a state-run monopoly controls sales and prices. Apple Inc. is currently in its early phases of testing its technology for driverless cars. How do they want to up the ante? Well, Apple is now hiring senior engineers, some even with rocket science experience, to participate in all road tests. In a permit issued April 14th by the state of California, obtained this past Friday through a public records request, Apple identified 6 employees who worked at the U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, yes, NASA. They will be in the front seat of 3 Lexus Sport utility vehicles with technology to make them driverless. These road tests are crucial for Apple as it tries to catch up to developing self-driving cars. And lastly, after a decade of trailing behind American multinational toy manufacturing company, Mattel, toy and board game company Hasbro, has finally passed the toy giant in quarterly revenue. This is the first time since the year 2000 that Hasbro managed to pull in more profit. Hasbro posted a revenue of $849.7 million, much higher than what analysts forecasted, and drowning Mattel's latest quarterly total of $735.6 million. This has sent shares soaring as much as 8.4% to an all-time high of $104.14. Traditional toy companies such as these two have had to increasingly compete to close, some gaining children's attention against smartphone apps and video games. After a small rebound last year, Mattel announced that Barbie sales were significantly low in the most recent quarter. That's all for business and tech. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you very much, Jess. And now we take a shift from business and technology to take a look at what's going on in the entertainment realm with Erin Crowley. Erin?
Thanks, Joey. Well, it's been 11 years since That 70s Show aired, but that doesn't make Mila Kunis any less adorable. The actress brought her parents to tears after renovating their 24-year-old condo that Kunis grew up in. After teaming up with the home company House, Kunis redid her parents' entire condo. But the real feat here, doing it while 9 months pregnant with her second child. When the actress talked about why she decided to renovate her parents' home, Kunis stated, "I wanted to give my parents something special because of all they've done for me and my brother, but I knew I couldn't do it by myself." Isn't she adorable? And on the note of adorable actresses, with 118 million followers, there's no question here that Selena Gomez is the queen of Instagram. But the actress turned singer-songwriter has people buzzing over her latest Instagram post, wondering whether or not Selena Gomez traded her luscious locks for a sleek bob. While the post has gotten over 1 million likes so far, it remains unclear whether Gomez actually cut her hair off or is just trying on a new wig for size. Fans have been speculating whether the photo was from prior shoots or the massive cut is the real deal. And while we can't quite figure out exactly what Miss Gomez did, she wouldn't be the first to pop on a wig and pretend it's a massive style change. If she did, the 24-year-old would join the ranks of Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, and Amber Rose, who have all played Instagram dress up. Hamilton star Leslie Odom Jr. has another thing to sing about. Now, the Broadway star and his wife Nicolette Robinson welcomed their daughter Lucille Ruby into the world on Tuesday. Lucille is the first child for the couple after meeting in 2008. Robinson wrote on her Instagram, she's the love of our lives, and she's teaching so much about us already. I, for one, couldn't be more happy for the couple. Well, that's all I've got for you guys. Now back to the desk.
Thank you, Erin. When we get back, a look at the March for Science.
And the rally for bike rights. Stay with us.
you doing?
I'm getting ready to host Good Morning Emerson, of course.
Good Morning Emerson? What's that?
It's the best morning show ever that's on Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m.
Wow, how can I work on this?
Yeah, let's get going. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather.
Welcome back. Over 1,000 people gathered Saturday afternoon for Boston's March for Science as a part of a worldwide demonstration celebrating the influence of science in our lives. Boston's march drew in even the youngest of advocates, with many children in attendance. They held handmade signs proclaiming their support. 5-year-old Penelope's sign declared, "The earth should be safe, and no one should hurt her or the animals that live on it."
Boston bicyclists are making a push for safer streets, using the title of a popular public sculpture as a figurehead. This weekend, they plan to ride laps around the Boston Garden in a demonstration that is being called Make Way for Bike Lanes, inspired by the book by Robert McCloskey about a family of ducks struggling to cross the busy roads around the Boston Common, Make Way for Ducklings. This area is one of the most dangerous biking areas in downtown Boston, as the streets surrounding the Common have wide travel lanes, allowing drivers to whip around them at unsafe speeds. Beacon Street has been the site of a number of crashes. The group of bikers hopes to encourage the city to install protected bike lanes.
This weekend, over 900 firefighters, police, EMT, and military personnel will be taking the ice in the Heroes Cup hockey tournament. The idea for the tournament came from Sudbury firefighter Mike Matros, who held a charity hockey game featuring the Sudbury and Framingham fire departments to raise money for the Last Call Foundation in memory of a fallen Boston firefighter. The game raised $15,000 and quickly caught the interest of other fire and police departments throughout the country. Now this weekend, 56 total teams comprised of emergency responders, all from 16 states and 2 countries, will hit the ice at the New England Sports Center. 100% of donations will go to charity, with 25% going directly to the Last Call Foundation, and the rest of the funds to charities of the competing teams' choices.
This weekend in Cambridge, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology will play host to the Festival of Bad Ad Hoc Hypothesis, also known as the BAHFest. The event celebrates well-argued and thoroughly researched but completely incorrect scientific theories. 6 speakers will present their theories to a panel of real scientists and a live audience. The most outrageous theory will walk away with a trophy. The festival was invented after Zach Weinersmith produced a cartoon in which a scientist argues that babies are shaped like footballs so they can be punted over mountains to spread their genetic material to nearby villages. Based on that, it's safe to say that this event is sure to be full of ridiculous ideas and a lot of laughs. And finally, Brian with a look at sports.
Thanks, guys. Well, the Boston Bruins season came to a crushing end on Sunday as the Ottawa Senators won Game 6 in overtime, advancing to an Eastern Conference semifinal showdown with the New York Rangers. All things considered, the Bruins had a tremendous year when you remember the shape they were in just a couple months ago. The Bees were just a few games over 500, had fired coach Claude Julien, and were facing a 3rd straight playoffless season. But interim coach Bruce Cassidy stepped in and led the team to an impressive 18-8-1 finish. The Bees are well equipped to build off of their late success and carry it into next season. In basketball, Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr may miss the remainder of the playoffs as he battles severe pain in his surgically repaired back. Kerr missed both Game 3 and Game 4 between the Dubs and Portland Trail Blazers, and assistant coach Mike Brown has assumed head coaching duties. Golden State swept Portland last night and advanced to the Western Conference semifinals. Boston Red Sox reliever Matt Barnes received a 4-game suspension after nearly hitting Baltimore Orioles third baseman Manny Machado in the head on Sunday. Barnes seemed to be retaliating for Machado's controversial slide into second base on Friday, which injured Dustin Pedroia. Barnes was immediately ejected from the game and was also fined an undisclosed amount. However, Barnes is appealing both the fine and suspension, and with tensions high, the Red Sox will again play the Orioles next week at Fenway Park in what is sure to be a can't-miss series. And finally, one of the NFL's all-time greats has found a new home. Earlier today, All-Pro running back Adrian Peterson signed a 2-year deal with the New Orleans Saints. The former Minnesota Viking has had a humbling free agency as a 32-year-old met with just 2 other teams, the New England Patriots and Seattle Seahawks. Both teams ended up going with younger, cheaper running backs rather than taking a chance on Peterson, who played in just 3 games last season. If Peterson is healthy, the Saints are in position to have their best season in years. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Brian. And that's all we have time for you tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in this season for all the Boston news that you need. In the meantime, check us out online at eivnews.com or on Twitter at eivnews. I'm Lindsay Purdue.
And I'm Joey Sack. We'll see you next time. Thank you and good night.